Hello and welcome to episode 102 of Retro Encounter, the RPG fan podcast where we play games. Sometimes old ones, sometimes remakes. It's all kind of the same. But anyway, welcome. We are still talking about Final Fantasy XII. Yes, that Final Fantasy. Everyone's favorite Final Fantasy, am I right? Yeah, anyway, we've still got lots to talk about with this game. I'm your host, Argyros. The link is there on the boards. Glad to be back, and with me we have Peter, gotta hunt them all, Triezenberg.
I do gotta hunt them all. Peter Triezenberg, I have Fury on the boards.
And Robert, I like big espers and I cannot lie, Fenner.
No other Marlboro can deny. Hello, it's me. I'm back.
He's back. We're back.
We're all back.
From the other side.
A dinosaur story.
Oh man, you just took me on a trip there.
The Yasmat story.
Yes. We're gonna get to Yasmat, and we're gonna get to the other super bosses, most of them, and the optional dungeons that made me want to pull my hair out. So, please look forward to that. I'm gonna try not to, but I may drop an F-bomb. I don't know. It was bad. But first, why don't we start with, I'm sure, the topic that everyone is dying to talk about, the story, because we beat it, and it's done. And how do we feel about it now that it's all done?
It's good.
I hadn't beaten it before, so I was pleased with how it panned out. I think I mentioned in our first episode that I felt like there was a little bit too much chasing after magical rocks, and while that does happen in the second half, I feel like that last leg of the journey, maybe from Arcades onward, feels a little bit more cohesive, I would say.
Yeah. I think that the road trip from Mount Buramises to Arcades is probably one of the weakest parts of the game because there's barely anything that happens there, and it does just feel like a, travel here, go here, and then like go somewhere else, and you're kind of like
dungeon.
Sure. Okay. I mean,
it feels like
not?
This is a much more compact story than the world that they created for it. But I did like how it concluded.
I think the ending of 12 is great. I think it all kind of comes together really nicely. They put a nice little bow on things. They wrap up all the little arcs that they've been adding up over time. I like the fact that Gabranth gets something to do, finally. I love crazy Balthirdad Sid.
Yeah, double Sids this time.
Yeah, double Sids. One of them's great. The other one is the worst designed character in possibly in Final Fantasy history.
No way! Come on, that guy with the funny leg from FF10-2.
Repressed memories coming back.
I don't think anything beats that in my book. I've got a soft spot for Al Cid.
Yeah, no, he's pretty bad. Still, I feel like Al Cid, I would like to have seen more of Rosaria. I think if there's one gripe I have with the second half of the game,
for real,
that we still don't get to hear much about them. It's just he kind of pops up before the final boss for some last minute politicking. Then it's off to Sky Fortress Bahamut to fight Vayne. I think it's interesting that they give a very, very well-reasoned excuse for why, okay, it's final boss time. But I still think Al Cid, just his design and his weird, unplaceable Tommy Wiseau accent is just really, I don't know why he's just strange. He seems like he's an outlier in the game.
I definitely agree that it feels... I don't know how it would work in the plot, because we've already got a game with huge chunks where there's very little happening, and it just feels like a road trip for road trip's sake. But it would have been nice to have Rosaria as a comparison to Arcades, because they make a point of sending you to Arcades so you can actually see what the capital city of the enemy is like, or one side of this conflict is like. And you also, of course, you start in Rabanastre, but in Dalmasca, but then all you ever hear about Rosaria is from two little brief scenes with Al Cid talking about, well, okay, they have a war pavilion. Apparently it's beautiful. I have no idea what kind of country it is, what it looks like based on what they tell us in the game. Mm-hmm. And it would have been it would have balanced, I guess, the idea. You would have gotten a better sense of the conflict if you had been able to see all sides.
Well, from what I understand, Alcid was meant to be just like a throwaway character, and they weren't really even going to talk about Rosaria very much at all. And then
Oh,
they just liked his voice actor so much that they gave him some extra scenes. I guess maybe that's to the detriment because it gives you this snatch of like, okay, there is a wider world, but we're not going to tell you enough about it.
Yeah, I mean,
that's interesting.
I appreciate what bit of world building there is about Rosaria. I could have maybe done with like maybe a couple more, just cutscenes. Even you don't even have to go there. Just like maybe show that war pavilion, like doing like debating like whether or not what to do about the Arcades or whatever. But I guess really the main thrust of the conflict is like because he does show up at the end to be like, oh yeah, so a bunch of our forces kind of splintered off and joined up with Andor's rebellion, and that's kind of the main thrust of the conflict. So
Yeah. That does seem to come out of nowhere, and they don't show you that at all. It's just that's a problem with that scene and parts of the game as a whole is it's all about telling and not showing.
Yeah.
Like they even, especially when they have a cutscene midway that shows the resistance forces mustering and running drills against each other in preparation for a conflict. They couldn't have spared like 2 minutes to have a cutscene showing how it actually, that resistant or that Rosarian sort of spy force actually starting the conflict, like, instead of having Alcid just tell us about it.
Yeah, that could have been interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. But having said that, that final sequence of cutscenes as you're getting, once you like choose to go to Bahamut is really, really, I mean, like, I didn't forget about it from when I played the original game, but somehow I think I kind of forgot about how good of a ramp up they do with those cutscenes, and they really do.
Yeah, it's a fantastic conclusion, I think. Especially seeing it all in glorious high definition too, thanks to the Zodiac
Yes.
Age. This is how it was meant to be experienced. I do think as a dungeon, Sky Fortress Bahamut is pretty anemic.
Yeah, for real.
But I guess Pharos Lighthouse is like the real final dungeon because that is a very, very long slog. I guess this is kind of the best that they got, just kind of to get you through to the end of the story. I think it's also funny that they talk about like awakening Bahamut, and then Bahamut turns out to be a ship.
Yeah,
I'm wondering if that was a rewrite.
Well, okay, so it needs a lot of mist to run, obviously,
Right.
and that was the whole point of going of trying to get the Suncrest on Pharos is for all the mist it has. But I
Right.
mean, it's a ship that they designed, and surely they have ways of powering the other ships in their fleet, which are not small by any. I mean, the Leviathan was a pretty huge ship. I mean, not as big as Bahamut, but it can't be that the only way that they could power that thing is by using the mist built up in the Suncrest, unless, it was about time pressure. It would have taken longer to fuel it, and they needed it now because they knew that the resistance was mustering.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It does kind of feel like a MacGuffin on Vane's part to have. Oh, I've got this super powerful ship that shoots fire. Well, I don't know.
I built a Death Star.
Yes,
He's like,
and I have it aimed at Rabanastre. We will deal with your rebel friends soon.
How appropriate.
Yeah.
oh,
I'm
man.
not, I totally get, I've been streaming this and the joke has come up that it's basically Star Wars, and I totally get that. It totally is Star Wars. It's up to, I think, individuals whether or not it's done in a good way.
That thing's operational. That's all. If Andor had started just quoting Lando, it would have not been out of place.
I have to wonder, there's got to be someone on YouTube who's done this where they take 12 cutscenes and they impose audio from A New Hope.
Oh my god, I'm
on
going
it.
to do that.
Because, I mean, it's obvious. It would be hilarious. Someone had to have thought of that because, come on. If not, someone listening to this, please get on it. I
don't think
best
it's
thing
still,
ever.
This is a little off topic, but I don't think it's still up anymore. But someone put like the entire series of Star Wars movies on YouTube. But every time a ship took off or landed, it would add Obi-Wan saying "another happy landing."
Oh my gosh. That sounds like a drinking game in the making. Like,
Through all 7 movies. Oh my god, I don't know if I can handle that.
all right. Well, on that note, maybe we should move along. So it's not just the main story in the game that people are experiencing, although that's the primary focus. But there are a smattering of side quests, some that you take on, as sort of more of a gameplay mechanic, the hunts and whatnot, and things like that. But then others that you just you talk to random people and you get these quests, and the game doesn't even keep track of it or tell you that, hey, this is a side quest. It's more just I don't want to say organically, but it's kind of you're just running around talking to people, and hey, this actually happens to be a thing you can do. I didn't manage to do all of them in this playthrough. I was so focused on getting through some of the optional super content that I never finished before. But I'm wondering if you guys have any side quests that you liked, or there's some that you did that you was why am I doing this?
I have a real issue with this side quest system. I mean, Final Fantasy XII was so forward thinking and so ahead of its time, and yet it has this super archaic 16-bit era side quest system. As you said, nothing is tracked, nothing is kept track of. So it's so easy to lose the thread of what you were doing. If you put the game down and come back to it, you'll really have no way of if you don't remember, you'll have no way of knowing where you were in a certain chain of deals, So I didn't love this system. I was very careful to run around talking to everybody to see what I could pick up. I didn't complete too many of these quests. I mean, the standout is that one early on where I don't even remember what you do, but it's you get this chain of deals, and then you need to go north of the river, but you can't get there, so you need to remember to go north of the river way later.
Yes, the patient in the desert quest.
Yeah, I kind of like that, but the whole time I was just thinking, if I wasn't concentrating on getting this done over a 10-hour period, I don't know. I mean, I think this game really could have benefited for all the wonderful things that they've added. I don't want to throw shade because this is a fantastic re-release through and through, but you get rid of Hunter's Den and you don't add a quest log. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'm with you on that one, on Robert, because like you said, 12 is forward thinking in a lot of ways. I really love the hunt system, and I sort of told myself I'm going to try and do more optional content this time, because I pretty much ignored it in the PS2 version. When I first played it, I kind of stuck to the main plot. And I was really excited to try and experience a lot of that content. And indeed, I'm okay, this feels like I'm getting a whole nother dimension of this game. But it is really weird that it is kind of we live in an age of quest logs and waypoint markers and all those things. So suddenly we have the system where the side quests, like you said, is kind of 16-bit era, where you just talk to these NPCs and follow the quest chain. But there's nothing really to indicate that you're in the middle of a quest. There's nothing that keeps track of your objectives or points out where you need to go. The rewards for them are usually some of them it's more like they lead to more content in other parts. I think the one I did just to get the Barheim passage key.
Oh yeah.
I think that So because I wanted to go after more of the espers and more hunts, which I do enjoy. Those parts of the game I think are really awesome. But that whole sequence of getting the key is just okay, so talk to this NPC, then go across the river and talk to the other NPC, and then go back across the river, and then talk to this NPC, then leave the town, come back to the town, talk to NPC, leave the town again, come back to the town again, talk to NPC, leave, come back. Oh, by the way, that guy I was watching over is healed now. Go behind the tent and talk to him. I don't want to talk to any more people. Just give me the stupid key. I wouldn't even know that this is how I get the key if I didn't look it up beforehand how to get Barheim passage key. There's no indication anywhere in the game that to get into this optional area, to get Zalera and a few other hunts, you need to go and talk to this random chick in the desert and do a quest involving dancing cactuses.
Thanks, Kawazu.
Thanks, Kawazu. It's all your fault. When his name came up in the credits, I was just kind of pointed at my screen and was it was you.
Oh, those dancing cactos were really cute.
They are so sweet.
They are cute.
I brought my girlfriend in to look at those guys.
That is
He's so happy when you reunite a resurrected Dran with his mom. He's like, yay! I'm gonna jump up in the air and like do ballerina. Like he's almost like a ballerina jump. The way he's lifting his arms and he's like twirling moving his legs back and forth. It's just like adorable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally feel you. It's actually really weird that they do such a good job with the hunt log. Being really helpful and showing you exactly where the petitioners are and then exactly where the hunts are, even if you don't already have the map for that region. They at least give you an idea of where it is. And then the rest of the side quests are absolutely nothing. And if you don't have a guide, you will miss things and you probably won't know where to go. And I mean, like, even with a guide, I'm like having to check it multiple times to remind myself, okay, I need to go here now to get this. And I need to get that so I can get that. And I need to get that second thing so I'll unlock this optional area for an esper or, I don't know, fight this super boss or something like that. And you're just kind of like, it's a weird combination of being super helpful, more so than you would think, especially, the whole idea about a hunt is to part of the half the thing is finding the mark, and they just tell you where it is. And then, being super unhelpful on the other hand. So it's a bit of an oddity. And I agree. It's kind of a lost opportunity for them to make changes, quality of life changes in the game in Zodiac Age. The one that, random tangential aside, that really still annoys me that they didn't do anything to is when you're sheathing and unsheathing your weapon, you cannot interact with things. So if you're trying to pick up an item or open a door and your character happens to sheath or unsheath their weapon, you have to wait. And there's also, if someone's like casting magic shortly on you, or if you're casting magic, you may not be able to open a door, which is really annoying in places like the Pharaohs where I just want to get out of it.
If you're holding the flee button, you can't interact. And boy, oh boy, that led to some party wipes for me.
Oh God, yes.
I'm so grateful for the autosave system in this version, but wow, I had some, like, why have a flee button if you're just going to be blockaded by doors at every turn?
Yeah, the autosave made things so much easier in areas. It allowed me to not be quite as cautious when playing through. And like when I stream this game for the site, I don't manually save the entire time that I'm playing because autosaves are a thing. It's great. And it's really helpful for things like some of the optional espers where you have to trek through an area full of enemies before you can even fight the boss.
Yeah.
Because if you die during fighting the boss, well, at least you haven't lost all of your progress. You just get resetted at the last area before you enter the boss chamber, which is, for Zodiark in particular, was thank you for that. Although Zodiark, I hate you. I really, really hate you, and I'm getting ahead of myself, but yeah.
I agree. The autosaves are a really great inclusion. I actually would have been completely screwed without them, though, because my save date, one of my saved files got corrupted.
No!
And thank God for that autosave backup, because otherwise I would have been completely like, oh God, this. Yeah, so it was weird. I started saving the game, and after it saved, it wouldn't load up the finished completing save file thing. It would just stay as a black screen, and I had to reset the app. And it actually did that to me a couple times. Although the other time it didn't. It didn't corrupt the save file the other two times, but it would fade to black and then not load again. So I don't know what's up with that. I don't know if you guys ever had like issues with that, or if it's just my PS4 is like acting up or something. But I was just like, feels like an oversight.
Did you Google it? Did you see if anybody else had the same problem?
I didn't really think to, because like it didn't really come up as like it's one of the things where it's like it only really impacted my playthrough once, and the autosaves saved me up from like losing all my progress.
I stopped playing Argyros on Vita because I ruined my save, because that game's got a bug where if you ever look at a tutorial after getting it and then save your game, it's corrupted forever. So good job on that one, and please, more designers put in autosave.
Wait, what game was that?
That's Ultra Despair Girls, Danganronpa, another episode.
Oh,
wow, okay.
Yeah, and it's got kind of a confusing system that you might want to look at the tutorial for.
And they haven't patched it?
No, I mean, maybe they have on the PS4 re-release, but I've only bought this recently, and it's like a 2.5-year-old game.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah,
That is
like,
horrible.
that's bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I like autosaves. I know I bizarrely see some people complaining about it, but I mean, I mean, like, I
I
don't want to necessarily knock opinion. Some people really, they don't like the game saving for them if, they want to have their own saves, and I can appreciate that, but in a game like this, especially where you have gigantic areas and there are monsters that may eat your face, there's this one section of the Zertinan Caverns that inexplicably has level 92 enemies, and you can just walk right in and get your ass kicked.
That's
and
so fun.
And because if you're in Zertinan Caverns, maybe you've just fought Adramelic and you haven't gone back to save. Without autosaves, you have to fight that Esper again, and that's not. He can be an annoying Esper fight too because of all the zombies. Thank you, Square. You did something good for a change, Square, in giving autosaves to this game. So yes, thank you. Anyway,
I think some people complain are like who want like a pure experience. I can sort of understand that, but at the same time, it's like I don't see like the issue with adding quality of life stuff to games. I've seen people are complaining that like the Superstar Saga remake that's coming out, Mario and Luigi is they're adding like because on the bottom screen of the 3DS they added shortcuts for the button commands. People are complaining about that, and I'm just like, does it matter? So, but that's all.
Don't use them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They kept in the option to manually like select it with the shoulder buttons, like in the Game Boy version. You just can also tap the bottom screen to automatically switch to your high jump or your spin jump.
Nerds, man.
yeah, we're a weird and troubled bunch. So we talked about hunts a little bit, but I'm wondering, any favorite hunts or any hunts that you just like you're dragging your hands over your face like, oh my god, die already?
A lot of them tend to be they have a lot of health and they tend to go on for a little while. They can be pretty drawn out battles.
Once again, Square Enix, thank you for the fast forward feature.
Oh
yes,
the fast forward feature is a godsend during long fights. There's also this is weird. I've heard like some people have trouble with the Merilith fight because that one not so much fighting it but finding it, because that's the one that spawns in Zartan Caverns, and it can take a while to. Well, it's funny because I went over and it spawned immediately, so maybe I just lucked out. But,
yeah, me too.
Yeah, or that's something they fixed in Zodiac Age. I've heard tell in the original version of people just like standing there for like an inordinate amount of time waiting for this giant snake to show up.
Yeah, I don't know. For me personally, some of the hunts are pretty fun. The ones that I ended up disliking the most are the ones where you had to have specific weather conditions to get them to spawn.
Oh, yeah.
Looking at you, the Gill Snapper, and also Fafnir.
Oh, the Gill Snapper is annoying, yeah.
Gill Snapper's annoying. And then Fafnir, I remember this. You need a blizzard to fight him, and if you go into the wrong area in Paramina Rift, you kill the blizzard. And you can't get it back unless at least I don't think you can. I went the wrong way the first time, and I must have gone back and forth between the zone where he appears like 20 or 30 times with no blizzard until I looked it up and was like, no, actually you can't go through the frozen brook, otherwise it kills the blizzard. And I'm like, really? So that, and then I really, really hate hunts that run away and spend half the fight running. Trickster, I'm looking at you. But actually, Viral is the worst offender of that, because once you get him to a certain point, he just starts running throughout the entire arena and then casting, beneficial side effects on themselves. I'm like, dude, stay in one place. Let me kill you. No.
A Final Fantasy enemy showing a self-preservation instinct. What a world.
I hate it when the enemies, even the little fry, do that. I'm like, dude, come on. Take your KO with some pride, okay? Only I'm allowed to, turn tail and run like a little coward when I'm about to die.
That rather cute boss battle near the beginning of the second half, where that guy draws he draws his own little wanted poster like a child's drawing, and then you go up against all the mandragoras or the mandrakes, and they're all running all over the place. And
yeah, I hate that one too. They're cute, but it's annoying.
It is annoying. It's like I don't know, like you're chasing after preschoolers or something. It's very funny. I like the Bagaman fight. I thought that tied a very nice little bow on that character. because like I guess you can fight him in the mines, but just running away and being like, oh, maybe we'll see him again, who knows? And the fact that he comes up as like this optional elite hunt, I think that's a really great and satisfying little callback
Yeah,
with
that's
his whole
also a
crew
great.
in tow.
That's a great bit of gameplay and story integration too.
Yeah.
How they make it how they make the whole turn the whole hunt system and the whole thing about the clans issuing like hunts out. It's like, oh yeah, now someone's like going out and killing hunters, something or someone, we don't know what it is. You follow those chains of hunts and they end up at the Ganon, and that's just, yeah, it's a great little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I wish there was more like that. It's
Yeah.
I like the elite clan hunts where the clan members join you on the hunts because I mean you don't really learn much about them, but it's nice to have an ally and it's nice to feel like the clan is working together
Yeah.
instead of it being every hunter for himself.
Yeah.
So
Where you're like, you're not the only bounty hunter in the world, while the supposed quote unquote hunters just like sit around in the lounge, you know?
yeah,
So it adds quite a bit, just that little NPC touch.
and of course there's Gilgamesh. That's a fun fight that you have to fight
Yes,
twice.
there is.
I haven't done that one yet. I'm probably gonna go back and finish all the optional content at a future date.
It's still one of my favorite remixes of Battle on the Big Bridge.
Yeah.
Um, well, one of the earliest ones I heard too, because I actually I'm bad. I haven't played Final Fantasy V.
Oh, you
Um,
should. We should do Four Job Festa.
oh gosh, I'm a slow player. I don't know if I can play it fast. And with limited, I mean,
If
like
we
I
did
don't
it
know.
over like
It
if we did it over like 2 episodes, like next year, that could be awesome.
Yeah, Five's a really good game.
maybe I can be convinced, but
It's really good. I think you'd really like it.
well, I will surely think about it. And anyway, that might have been my introduction to the music. I'm not sure that I heard it before then. But I know I checked it out afterwards. And was like, hey, this is not Sakimoto. I mean, he's arranging it, but this is not Sakimoto composing it. And but the fight is. I'm amused at the fact that he does turn tail and run. He's like the only hunt. I mean, well, okay, aside from the ones that run around the arena, he's the only one that literally flees the field, and you have to find him again and then fight him again. And then he's a lot harder when you fight him again. And then, of course, you have to steal the Genji equipment from him if you want it. Which, if you have a katana user, you really want the Genji gloves.
Mm-hmm.
But that was cool. It's one of the little moments or areas of the game where they have references to the older Final Fantasies. It's a nice touch to have those references to the older Final Fantasies. I mean, a direct character, a hunt like Gilgamesh, and the music. But it's cool to have that thrown in. And then there are other like references throughout the game, like how all the airships are named after summons
Yeah, it's a nice
or
one.
major enemies.
Same with their like the their airship like formations, like their squadrons. Like instead of running out or yelling out like gold leader, red leader, they're like follow me, Tom Berry, or something like that. Like that's a
Yeah,
nice little touch.
I thought that was really cute. So, and it's interesting that they do that in comparison to the summons that you get in the game. And I think I'm going to jump ahead to talking about espers real fast because that's a good transition. I can't get rid of it. The fact that the airships, a lot of them, especially the Arcadian airships, are sort of like your traditional Final Fantasy summons. You've got Shiva, Leviathan, Ifrit is mentioned. Obviously, Bahamut is a sky fortress. And you have, for some people, if they haven't played, say, Final Fantasy Tactics, the summons, the espers, might be wholly new summons that they've never heard of before. And obviously, for Tactics fans, the 6 or 7 espers that come from Tactics are kind of like, oh my gosh, so awesome.
Yeah.
So what do we think about the espers in Final Fantasy XII and the characters themselves, I guess, and the fights, and then the whole mechanic of summoning them and using them as party members, if you want.
Well, just to bridge our last conversation or our last topic, it was a nice surprise having Zeromus as a summon, as one of the hidden espers.
Oh, yeah.
That's I know it's mostly just fan service, but it worked on me, and I liked that you have access to this, this world-ending threat with his universe-creating special move. On the whole, I like the way they handled the summons. It felt like a more enticing and fun way of the way they handled the Aeons in Final Fantasy X. Like actually having them fight alongside you for a time. They never really tried something like that before. I mean, in 10 kind of, but um at least if I'm remembering 10 correctly. But yeah, I'm pretty positive on the way they did summons in this game, and it seems like the only Final Fantasy where they really have done that to since.
In 10 they join they take kind of replace your party.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And you don't so they you can input their commands, but um I enjoy the system in 12. I really like the fact that there are so many espers. Um, and I really love kind of the little stories about them. I love like NPCs will drop hints and be like, there's like tell of like howling. You can hear it in the caverns below, or and you kind of pick up on rumors and scuttlebutt. I think it adds texture to the world. And I really love the data log entries when the bestiary entries on them, where it's like, they're talking about how their role were like they rebelled against the gods and were cast down because it's thematically appropriate.
Totally.
It just fits in right there. Their own stories are often really interesting. Their designs are really cool. As for the summoning mechanics, though, Zodiac Age, no doubt is an improvement over the original because just for the simple ability to give them commands, that was an issue in the original version where they would just kind of die, and then you would use they weren't very useful in that version. They are more so here, but they're still kind of a garnish on the combat system rather than like unnecessary implements because because there's nothing they can do really that you can't accomplish with your party, I guess, other than the big flashy finishing move, which in really tough fights they might not even be able to fire off because your summoner is going to get wailed on and they're going to get dismissed because you died.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah, so it's like it feels more like on novelty in combat, even with the ability to control them. And I think
Mhm.
that's where they're different from other summoner job classes in other games or the summons in 10, where it's like they're actually like a fairly integral part of the system. Yeah, I don't know. That's just me. I feel like as a summoning mechanic, they almost feel like they're in there just because it's Final Fantasy. We have to have summons. I also think it's interesting that like you only there's like what 13 espers in the game,
Yep.
Mhm.
and you counter like 5 of them in the main story, and that's kind of interesting to me.
I like that kind of thing a lot, and the fact that so many of the espers are hidden in this game reminded me of Final Fantasy VIII. Like
Yeah,
going to get Odin, or rubbing the
Yeah.
magic lamp to fight Diabolos. It kind of adds this whole air of mystery
uh,
that I really really appreciate, and we were seeing less and less of that as into the PlayStation 2 era. The bigger RPG franchises were like more about providing a big but fairly linear spectacle. And like 12 really, I think it really succeeds at, feeling like, wow, this who knows what this world is hiding in a way that some of its contemporaries maybe didn't.
yeah. I think that the optional espers are a really cool addition. I just
Mm,
think it's interesting that for like such a big way, like the only one that really like is given like a lot of story significance is Bellius, and then from there on out, like you'll
mm.
just encounter a few of them as like end of dungeon bosses without a whole lot of build up or pomp and circumstance. You get, I guess, like okay, Famfret, I think the one Sid summons,
Hmm.
but other than that, yeah, it's like they just feel like the ones in the story feel like they could be like any other boss in the game, I suppose. Then the optional ones are like the really neat ones, like your Zeromus, Exodus. Is it Kuchlane or Kuchlane or?
Because it's Gaelic, isn't it? I think it's.
I've never been absolutely certain about how to
I
pronounce
think the
his
coup
name.
is a chew. I think I know that much.
Chuchlane? Chuchlane?
Choo train, maybe. That's choo choo train. Is that right? We're probably offending somebody.
Cuckoo Kachu is what I like to call him.
We'll have to get Grieg on here to give us a hard time.
But that's weird. You want to talk about annoying questions and trying to find. I don't know how you're supposed to figure out the thing with the water levels in
Oh yeah, no, I don't.
Oy.
That's like
No.
that is like the most like tedious. I don't understand. Like I just looked up directions and never went I never went back. I don't know if you're supposed to figure that out without a guide. And then he's like one of the most annoying espers in the game. But
that's the go-to padding for your RPG, isn't it? Put in like an expansive sewer with water levels.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it's not an RPG if it doesn't have an annoying sewer stage, right?
Sure.
But I mean, let's see. I like the look of the espers. I like that they're different from the expected bunch. Like I said, there's no Shiva, there's no Ifrit, they're ships. It's awesome that there's so many tactics bosses that are represented. I think, including Zodiark, you've got about 7 espers out of the 13 that come from tactics. And most of them are ones that you have to fight optionally. Balius and Hashmal are the only ones that are from tactics in the main story. I think they improved on the usage mechanic in the Zodiac Age, but I still didn't use them that much. I more used them like when I wanted to listen to the awesome Esper summoning music that plays when you summon espers. I like the battle theme too, but I really like the summoning theme. I never really used them in boss fights. I used them in a couple of hunts where they were strong against the elements that the hunts were using, and I could just sit back and watch them wail. But some of them, the trek to get to them, like, Kukakachu, I'm sorry, that's what your name is from now on. He's annoying, especially if you... I took him on when I had Redis in the party, so it made it a little bit easier, but that HP sap that he flings at you is annoying. And it's interesting that so many of them do send these limiters at you. Like one of them, Chaos, is super annoying because you can't use the attack command, and if you don't have your gambits or your techniques and magic set up properly, he can be really frustrating. There's is it Zeromus that you can't use magic with, I think. So that was fun because that was like, how quickly can I burn through my stash of X potions? Mm-hmm. And then there's like Ultima, who rotates through pretty much all of the locks that you can have on a regular basis. Although I actually liked that fight. It was a lot of fun having to adjust on the fly and setting up your gambit so that your characters would automatically switch to technics when the attack command was down, and use magic when they could. I feel like Ultima, she's possibly my favorite looking out of all the bunch of the espers in the game, and one of my favorite incarnations of the character Ultima in Final Fantasy. She's just so immaculately beautiful with her, the angel wings going on, and the whole, like, her body is like, I don't know if she's supposed to be like a bell or a cannon or a bell cannon. We'll just call it a bell cannon. She's really cool. Zodiark, I finally beat him. I never beat Zodiark in the PS2 version.
Yeah, talk to us about this. I want to hear all about it.
Oh my god, he's a pain in the butt. So he uses a spell called Darkja, which is dark magic, hits everyone, and it has a high chance to instantly KO people when it hits. You can mitigate this by having faith on people and casting Shell, but it's still going to kill people, and it's very possible it will wipe your entire party, or your main party, in one shot, and so you have to bring in reserves. And they may not be prepared, because mine weren't. I had I had like 3 or 4 people at a good, decent level, and 2 of them I had to kind of leave behind a little bit. So there's always that. They have to quickly res their main crew and then try to last or try to switch them out. And by the way the system works in the game, it can be really hard to switch out people when you want, because if someone's performing an action or if they're having an action performed on them, they are locked. You can't remove them. I had to like tell people to flee in order to disengage so that I could actually move people out of the party when I needed to. But that's not even the worst part about Zodiark. The worst part about Zodiark is when he gets down to critical HP, he puts up a physical paling that never comes down, so you can't use physical attacks on him at all. He then puts up a magic barrier, and what I've read is he only puts it up if you dispel the reflect status from him, which most people are going to do because they see beneficial stats on a boss and are like, get rid of that. He has a magic barrier up, so for a good chunk of the time, he is completely immune to damage. The magic barrier will come down, and he'll cast Reflect, which you have to dispel, and then he'll cast Darkja, which may kill people. So by the time that you get your party back up and can cast magic, you have to use magic against him because no physical attacks work. He may have recasted Reflect, and he may have put the barrier up. It was super frustrating because he's like a sliver of health at that point. It was an experience, and one that I'm glad that I finished, but holy crap, it's annoying. The trick I think with him, for anyone listening, is when you're at that point, if he's putting up the magic barrier, don't bother casting magic. At that point, you want to be casting a Scathe or something non-elemental. Just use motes. They're a lot faster. I tried to manage his buffs and cast magic at the right time, but because of how he was killing people so often, it was impossible. Once I started using motes to cast magic, I wiped him. So that was the thing. I'm glad that I did it. I have now gotten all 13 espers, but I kind of feel like Zodiark and, if I'm remembering correctly, Zeromus with his anti-magic field are kind of some of the most annoying ones, just because of how they make you have to scramble. And Zeromus is also shitty because I believe he has like never-ending supply of minions that spawn, and you have to deal with them. They will overwhelm you if you don't deal with them. So the balancing item usage, fighting the boss, and managing the enemies is so.
I think one of the like a 5-chain quickening will take out all the minions.
Yeah,
in my experience.
But then there's the whole thing with the quickening system. Can you get a 5-chain?
Oh yes,
quickening? Because sometimes I don't normally try to platinum games, and I'm not going to try to platinum this one, if only because filling out the bestiary and getting all the concurrences is going to super frustrating. It's super hard to do the concurrences.
So close to getting the last concurrence, but
how many do you need to get it?
You need 4 of each. You need 4 2s and 4 3s, which requires.
And the timer gets shorter and shorter every time you do. By the time you're getting to that last stretch, you don't have hardly any time. It's RNG a lot, or really quick fingers.
It's a real slot machine.
An absurd amount of luck, and there are ways my thing was always start with the lowest level ones. Never try to do 2 of the same level of quickening in a row, because then you're going to go over. Because if you go over 4 of each kind, it resets the count. That's the thing about it that's annoying. Because let's say you get 4 2s, 4 3s, and 5 1s. It resets the count, and you're just going to get Inferno.
Oh, that's awful.
It is the worst. You have to get exact numbers, and that's like that alone is just like I'm like I want to platinum 12, honestly. Like I really was like, this is all that's the thing about it, is like it's all manageable stuff within the context of the game, like defeat all these, do all these quests and stuff. But that one bit is just that's really frustrating.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing that. My sanity was tested well enough just working through the optional high-level dungeons and taking on the super bosses. So nope, not going to do it.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, did either of you... so I want to say optional high-level dungeons, but also including things like the extra areas in Barheim. Did you guys do any of the sort of the areas where you don't have to go for the main story, like Nabudis, the Nebra's Deadlands, the extra areas, and some of the older dungeons?
I did go to Necrohall of Nabudis for and for a couple hunts, and I did find that the Nebra's Deadlands, which I think that's cool. How there's like a whole zone in the game you don't have to go to.
I like optional areas a lot. I poked my head into the depths of Garamysith and also Nabudis. Really, it's been a pretty hectic couple of weeks for me, so I was too pressed for time to do the bulk of the optional areas and hunts, just racing for the finish line. But I'm actually going to go back and check out some of the stuff that I missed now that I'm not playing to a deadline.
Be prepared for frustration when you do the high level stuff, Pharaoh Subterra, the Henne Mines, the extra area, and the extra area of the Great Crystal.
Oh, I've been hearing frustration about Pharos and the Great Crystal for 11 years now. So I'm very, very morbidly curious about them.
I think this is one of those areas where my rosy remembrance of the game forgets that. Maybe I blocked that out of my memory because I don't remember it being so frustrating. I think part of it is that in the vanilla version of the game, everyone had access to all the magic. Everyone had access to all the techniques, all of the licenses that would help with things like removing disease and whatnot. So it was probably a lot easier to handle then. But it was. I'm like, wow, I forgot that this was so frustrating because the common theme of all three of those areas is enemies swarm you, enemies cast multiple debilitating status effects, and not like the easy kind like poison or silence. That I can deal with. They cast things like disable and confuse and sleep and multiple different ones at the same time. So you can't possibly defend against all of them unless you've gotten really lucky and found a ribbon somewhere, which I did not. That's frustrating, and it's these are the highest level areas. They have the enemies that are some of the highest levels around, so they're good for leveling, but they're also super frustrating to run through. I couldn't really run the areas at double speed because I was getting my butt kicked, and part of it was I went in there right at the time in which it would be beneficial to level, but I was obviously a little bit underleveled compared to the enemies in the area. Had I don't know, grinded a little bit in that small section of the Lusu mines where the enemies are high leveled, maybe it would have been a bit easier. And definitely something I'm going to do for the stream, so I don't succumb to the desire to just curse and curse and curse on the stream. But it's still it's can be really frustrating dealing with all of that. And I mean, part of that is, I feel like part of it is just the way the system is designed, and it's maybe showing a little bit of a weakness of the Gambit system and the way that the ATP is designed in the game. And, because it's hard to deal with more than say 3 or 4 enemies at a time when they're all slinging spells and side effects on you. You can set gambits to deal with these things, but you have to wait for that to trigger, and
sometimes it's past the point by the time it triggers.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just you had to deal with that, and I got through it, but boy, was it! There were times when I'm thinking, I don't really want to do this. Luckily, there is a way you can power level. If you really don't want to deal, and I did not want to deal with it. But I mean, that's a thing. And these are the highest level normal enemies in the game, outside of the 92 level enemies in Zertinan Caverns for some random reason. So of course it should be challenging, but I think for me, especially, the other thing was I was really trying to grind through this as fast as possible because I really wanted to have come into this episode having progressed a little bit further than I did in the original PS2 versions. My goal was to get through all of the super bosses. I didn't make it to Omega Mark 12 because Yasmat took forever, of course. But I was really trying to get through all these areas as fast as possible, and sometimes it meant having to fight all of the hunts, and that was a joy. But I mean, they're there for a reason. They're there to be there. They're there to basically level you so you can deal with the super bosses, and they're there to be kind of that optional challenge. So in that sense, it's good. It's just like, holy side effect city Batman. The super bosses themselves, I mean, like I talked about Zodiark, he's annoying. I don't like him. Bye, Zodiark. Yasmat was an experience, though. I never beat him in the original version. I think I attempted him on the PS2 version, and I forget if he just outright wiped me or if I sat, there for like 15 minutes whittling down one of his 50 HP bars and just said, nope. But this time I was determined to do it, and it took me like 3 or 4 hours, even at double speed. So obviously I wasn't, I probably didn't have the most optimal equipment, because it probably should have gone faster than that. But wow. I really hope Square never does that again, where they give you an optional super boss that has that. I mean, like, where he's a super boss pretty much just because of how much HP he has. Because that's the thing with the fight. I mean, I had my gambit set up in such a way that I could have stepped aside from the game, outside of the fact that it will force you to pick a new leader when your party leader dies and you don't get rezzed fast enough. Other than that, I set the controller aside because my gambits were working just fine. So yes, for anyone who's said this before, I did let the game literally play itself for a while. So, I mean, it took Yasmat to make me do that, because I don't usually do that. I usually, when I run through the game, I do not have my gambits turned on for the character I'm controlling. I like to manually control my party leader. But yeah, I did that for Yasmat, because otherwise it would have taken, I think, twice as long if I was manually inputting controls all the time. But yeah, I mean, he's a battle of attrition, because you can, with the right gambit set up, you can just sit there and let him do his thing. You might have to leave the arena once or twice to restock supplies, which I had to do like 2 times. But you can, by and large, just like let it run, and it still took hours. So yeah, and the interesting thing is Omega Mark 12 used to have a ton of HP too. Not nearly as much as Yasmat, but he used to have like over in the tens of millions of HP. Well, and they removed that. He's much more reasonable, 1 million something, I think, HP, as opposed to like, what was he, like 13 or 15 million maybe in the original version, the original Japanese version. So yeah, so that's the thing that I did, and I'm still going to work on Omega Mark 12 because I want to try and down that on my personal playthrough before I do it for the stream, because I've been trying to, when at all possible, get through things on my own first so that I can streamline them and not possibly look like an idiot on the stream. That was the thing, and I think I've been rambling, so let's move on. One thing that I wanted to make sure that we talked about, because, who I am, and I love Sakimoto, is the music in the game, which I think has its own sort of sets of strengths and weaknesses sort of aligned with the game. I love Sakimoto, and I love the score, but it is different from what people would have expected coming off of the last couple of Final Fantasies. I think it obviously fits the game, and it was great to have Sakimoto there because of the Ivalice connection. And of course, the reorchestrated soundtrack is very, very choice. It's amazing. But I've talked about the music in this game a lot on Rhythm Encounter and probably on Random Encounter at some point too. So I don't want to, take the stage. I want to hear what you guys think.
Battle for Freedom is my favorite final boss theme in the whole series. it's so good. I enjoy the recurring motifs that show up too. You get kind of the Resistance theme and the Empire's theme music both make recurring appearances, both in cutscenes and during other battle themes and which adds a sense of cohesion to the score that I really enjoy. The area music, some of them, there's I don't like all of them, but I actually really enjoy the music that plays when you in the is it the Giza Plans? It might be the Giza Plans. I think it starts out kind of chill and then all of a sudden gets really dramatic.
That's a great
Yep.
piece.
Yeah,
Yes.
like if you're gonna explore like a glorified swamp, you might as well have good music to go along with it. Um, there's a few other places like I think it's the Mossforan High Waste has really good music. Um, I God, there's a couple other zones in the game that I just find myself like I really enjoy the background music there. The only song I'm a little iffy on, weirdly enough, isn't one of Sakimoto's. It's Uematsu's contribution to the score, the ending theme, "Kiss Me
Oh,
Goodbye."
right, by Angela Aki.
Yeah, it's like I mean, it's okay on its own. It's not really a bad song. It's just I don't know. It's a little out of place, I think.
Yeah, I can feel that. It's also kind of weird. So, kiss me goodbye. There's like in a game for a game where, and we'll talk about this in a second. In a game where there's not really super strong romantic subplots throughout the game, to have an ending song that's called "Kiss Me Goodbye." Although I feel like I can see how the lyrics work in juxtaposition in alongside the story that we're told in the ending cutscene. I feel like some of them really relate strongly to Vaughn and the whole, I have to go out and be a sky pirate and do my thing. But then I don't know. Does that mean that it's Pinello that's singing it to him? So
I'm like,
Kiss these painted abs goodbye.
yeah.
Say goodbye to
Or
these.
or is it a reference to Ash and saying goodbye to Rassler finally? Or I don't know. It's I like the song on its own, but I'll agree it's weird, and it's not necessarily my favorite like Uematsu Final Fantasy ending theme.
yeah,
Even though I like Angela Aki a lot.
on like a level of thematic connection to the stories. Like on the one hand, you have stuff like Answers or Stand by Me, or like just like where it's totally on the nose and relevant to the game story, and then way over on the other spectrum of why is this even in the game? You have My Hands, and then kind of in the middle is Kiss Me Goodbye, where you can like, okay, you could draw tenuous thematic connections to the song, but you're still kind of spitballing. But
Yeah.
it's not a bad song, and I love the ending sequence of 12. Like I think that so much that I'm like, okay, you know what, this kind of works. Like I can deal with some like kind of mellow JRPG vocal pieces for now. Yeah, music. Robert, what do you think?
I've never been the hugest Hitoshi Sakamoto fan. I mean, when it comes to Base Escape, I'll take Masaharu Iwata almost every time. But I really love the soundtrack. To be honest, I can't really remember what the original recording sounded like. This re-recording just it sounds perfect, and I imagine like if I went back and played them back to back just to compare, it would be noticeable. But Peter, you made a very good point of it being cohesive. I like how it's all in this one kind of not quite cinematic, but it's orchestral. It's all in this style, and as beloved as Uematsu is, and as despite how much I really love Uematsu's work, I feel like a lot of the earlier Final Fantasy games, their soundtracks were kind of like a hodgepodge of different styles that didn't always. I mean, they were almost always good, but they didn't always fit together. In fact, they very rarely did. So you'd have like an industrial piece and a rock piece, and then like something that sounds like a Morris dance, really with no regard to the setting other than like the creator's whims. So having this like we're off on an adventure with a full orchestra, string pieces and booming kettle drums, it all works super well for me. And I found myself putting on some of the more peaceful pieces on the soundtrack when I'm doing my writing, especially the Giza Plains tune as well. Even though it's got the big bombast in it, I really like that melody that goes through it from start to finish. And I guess like the only other thing I really have to say about the soundtrack is it's kind of funny when you play the game in fast forward mode because like the time signatures, it kind of seems like they're running in time to the music when they're sped up. Um, that's all. It's some of the tracks out in the field, they kind of have like this urgent feeling about them, and to have that juxtaposed
Yeah.
with this ridiculous running speed, it didn't cease to make me smile on many occasion.
Yeah. I don't know if I actually don't know if it's just because the fast forward mode exists, but suddenly the default movement speed is just not enough.
Right?
It's like
For real.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I got so used to running at 2 times speed that when I would have to go to normal speed, I was like, why are we like walking?
too slow.
Shouldn't we be running?
Yeah. Yeah, the default mode of movement just doesn't feel fast enough. And I mean, it was never like particularly speedy to begin with, but I feel like the fact that a faster option exists just kind of exacerbates that.
Yeah. For my part, I mean, like I said, I've gushed about 12 soundtrack, and the what Robert said is totally. I mean, like it. I don't want to speak for everyone. It's nice that the game gives you the option to use either if you got the soundtrack DLC, you have the option of the ricocheted soundtrack, the original in-game BGM from the PS2 version, or the soundtrack release of the PS2's version soundtrack. Kind of an interesting decision there to do that. So you can pick whichever you like, and that's nice. And it's nice that it sort of in the Zodiac Age version it seamlessly goes between versions. You don't have to like reload an area or whatnot to get it to change. But for me, it's hard to listen to the ricocheted soundtrack and think about going back to the original version, which is good. I mean, I love the original soundtrack version of the PS2 version. It's still a good sound, but this is having live instruments really helps the sound. I mean, especially for a style like this that is, like Robert said, very orchestral and full of strings. It's when we're talking about like rock tunes and stuff that's a lot heavily electronic. Okay, you don't necessarily need live instruments as much there, but here it lends an extra amount of the word sticking in my head is legitimacy, but like it makes it feel a bit more real to have those instruments and have them sounding the way they do. And it's also nice that the ricocheted soundtrack eliminates the issue that the original game had, where you would have pieces of music reused for no reason. Sita Uplands in the original game actually used Giza Plains' theme again, which I didn't mind at the time because Giza Plains' theme is so good. But here it's its own new piece of music, and there are a couple of areas throughout the game. Some of the Sand Sea has new music. The Pharos Subterra has new music, which I kind of miss the original music there, but it's good. So
That's cool.
It's good music.
Was that recorded for the original international version or for Zodiac Age specifically?
As far as I know, for Zodiac Age,
that's really
the new
cool.
ones are
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so they did a good job with the music this time around. It's good.
It's good, yeah.
It's very good. You should listen, and it's on iTunes. Just saying. Oh, well, okay. One small little thing that I thought was interesting there, and for some reason it's not. When I bought it on iTunes, it wasn't there. There are a handful, like 2 or 3 tracks at the end of the soundtrack that are cutscene music, and it's interesting what's going on with this. They're all from the earlier part of the game, like the prologue mission where you're playing as Rex, and up through like up through I think when Vaughn breaks off from Penello to go find a way into the Fett in Rabanastre very early on in the game. In the original version of the game, these were music that were used elsewhere in cutscenes and whatnot, and the game has this problem of literally just using area music or cutscene music in cutscenes and not having specific cues that are designed just for those scenes. But what's interesting is these handful, like 2 or 3 tracks, they're the same theme, but they've been clearly re-recorded at different tempos or different effects to sound like actual cutscene music, and they're put into these like 3 little early on cutscenes, whereas in the original version you just had the soundtrack version or whatnot of the track playing, and it would play in different places in the game too. These little tracks, they only play in those cutscenes, so they're very much like actual cutscene music. It's interesting. I'm glad they did it. I find myself wondering randomly why it was just those 3 scenes. Maybe they just felt like that was kind of the most egregious use of using a set area theme or a set theme music in a cutscene. It would have been cool if they had done that throughout the game, but I imagine that would have been a lot of extra work considering, how many cutscenes there are. But it was just cool because I remembered listening while I was playing the game and then listening to the soundtrack and thinking, okay, this sounds like this other track, but it's slower and it has a definitive end. It doesn't loop. What's going on here? And then I realized, and that's nice. So again, music-wise, total props. Not that that's any surprise for me, anyway. Final Fantasy XII and Sakimoto fangirl that I am.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we want to talk about it's not the birds and the bees, it's the behemoths, the Bahamets, and the Malboros. Oh my!
Shipping, or lack thereof, in Final Fantasy XII, everybody. I remember, didn't I mention this? I thought I mentioned this last episode, that X-Play review for FF12. Did I bring that up?
Refresh us in the audience's memory.
Okay. Well,
yes.
So back in the days when G4 existed and X-Play was a show, Adam Sessler, that they reviewed Final Fantasy XII and they gave it a perfect score. And one of their main selling points was that there's no cheesy romance this time. Obviously, a little dig against Final Fantasy VIII and X in particular. I do think there is. The interesting thing about 12 and 12's characters in particular is that they do feel very fully realized by and large. And there isn't a romantic element to them, but there is definitely I think it's open to interpretation in a few places. And I kind of wanted to hear everyone's thoughts on that, because I think the ending is very heavily pushing a Bosch x Ash angle. And I thought that kind of came a little out of nowhere, because I think she and Balthier had more chemistry, more scenes together, a running subplot with the ring, and Balthier's faux sacrifice at the end when everyone's all sad seemed to be a bit more than that. But I wanted to hear everyone else's thoughts.
Robert, you go first.
Okay. I think we said off mic, I didn't really see any romantic connection between Balthier and Ash, and I didn't really see one between Bosch and Ash either. I saw it more of a redemption for these two characters, Bosch and Balthier, that is, rather than a push towards doing something in the name of love. I mean, I saw Balthier's sacrifice as like, okay, like he used to be a judge, and he also wants to make up for his father's failings. And Bosch, it just kind of seems like his status as like a royal knight of the realm has been regained. So I didn't really see a whole lot of romance there either. I mean, as for my own preferences, I mean, I'm not really into shipping anyway. So like if the choice is between like no romance and like a half-hearted, badly implemented romance, I'm kind of fine with them leaving it out.
Yeah.
If they can't go all the way. So I don't really have a lot of complaints one way or another here. I mean, like really the closest relationship is Balthier and Fran, and even that can be taken as like a spiritual sibling kind of thing in a way. Because they obviously care about each other very much, and then the nature of that you're not entirely privy to, and the game doesn't really make you privy to. So I guess it's really up to you. And as for me, like, I don't know, I don't tend to read these things in too much, unless it's Adol and Dogi, of course. But
yeah, Adol and Dogi is canon, though. I mean,
oh, for real?
Yes. Well, for my part, disclaimer: I ship Bosch and Ash. Like, that's just what I do. And Robert, you should join the dark side of shipping. It's so much fun.
Oh man, I have trouble managing my own relationship.
Yeah, I can feel that. But yeah, so I mean, I have shipper lenses. I like Bosch and Ash, so I like seeing the cutscenes where they interact. I wish there were more of them, unfortunately. I mean, yeah, I like that sort of little thing that Penelo says about Ash missing Bosch, and I, as a shipper, will interpret that romantically, of course. But I think, Peter, what you said is totally true. It's open to interpretation. I've seen lots of different interpretations. When the game first came out, there was the contingent of fans that were so like, it's obviously Balthier, Ash. I mean, look at them. And I remember looking at their cutscenes thinking, I don't see anything romantic there. I mean, there's him wanting the ring. Okay, yeah. Again, you can interpret that any one of a number of ways. I kind of feel like Balthier is so, especially at that early point in the game, he's much more thinking about himself than he is about Ash. He doesn't really sort of turn the tide and start, admiring Ash and believe in a, for me anyway, a platonic way, seeing her as a strong character and a strong leader and a strong woman until really for me it's like when they start heading towards Arcades is when he starts really kind of paying more attention to her. But I mean that's kind of, I think I want to call it a strength of the game. Obviously when I ship something, I would love there to be confirmation. But the subtleties of the game when it comes to the character relationships and how there's no outright romantic relationship stated between any character. I mean, even Penelo and Vaughn, who, you could easily write them, just a few extra lines could easily just, have them be boyfriend and girlfriend, are not obviously dating. Even like Robert said, Fran and Balthier obviously have a close relationship, but you could interpret that as being just, like you said, spiritual siblings or really close partners. But you can also interpret it romantically if you want. And the game is smart enough to put those threads in front of you and let you draw your own conclusions and have those conclusions work perfectly well with what the game shows you. There's no contradiction between really a fan who says that Fran and Balthier are obviously in love versus a fan who says, no, they're just really good partners. Both stories work perfectly well with what the game shows you. And I think I like the romance. I like romance in general. I like the romance in 10. I actually, gag me at the romance in 8, but I do like romance in my games and in my media. But I feel it's a mark of strength when media can be more reserved and instead of bashing you over the head with, oh, we are true love, and let me show you how much I love you, my true love, and I will die for you, my true love, and oh, I'm so sad my true love is gone. It has the restraint to not go down that route and, like I said, put things in front of you and let people make their own conclusions. But yeah, having said that, Bosch, Ash, all the way, please.
Yeah, even Lars in that last cutscene seems to be giving Bosch like kind of the wink, nudge, go for it. Totally,
he's got the eyebrow
and Bash.
He is totally an enabler, isn't he?
Yeah, he totally is. Actually, this is I think it's I am now imagining a hypothetical scenario where they went full Vaughn, Larsa, Penelo love triangle with this story, and
I think if we'd been talking about this back when I first played the game, I would have actually maybe felt a little frustrated that they were that subtle. I think that 10 years ago, I was in that kind of mood where I wanted a more obvious romance. And it probably was because it was coming off of 10, having recently come out. That was a very obvious in-your-face romance. And it was, I mentioned this, I think, in the first episode where, 12 kind of defied expectations. People were expecting things like an epic save-the-world story or, an epic romance, and it didn't have it. And I think I fell into that category a little bit, too, myself, when I first played it. Coming at it now, I actually appreciate like I said, the restraint a lot more so than I did, than I would have, I think, when I first played the game. And that's just, I think, it's probably just me getting old. Sorry, guys, I'm getting old.
It's okay. Wow. We're all getting old every day.
Every single day, we're dying a little bit inside. Isn't that fun?
Some days,
yes.
Others.
Seriously,
Halloween's coming.
We close at 11, but shut down emotionally at 9.
Yes.
The gentleman in me clocks out at 5.
Oh boy. All right. So, to bring things to kind of a close, to wrap up the episode, final thoughts on Final Fantasy XII. How does it hold up today amongst the pantheon of Final Fantasy games and RPGs and what have you?
Boy, oh boy, is it funny to play this coming off of Final Fantasy XV last year because these
Yeah,
games are worlds apart in their writing.
yeah. And
And
I say this as one of 15's more ardent defenders.
oh yeah, I liked 15 a lot, but oh my gosh, it's like wow. It feels like 15 was written by teenagers compared to like
Yeah, 15 tries like really hard to go for like a political intrigue at points, but it doesn't know how to do it.
not at
And then
all.
12's just like hold my beer.
No, wait, wait, wait. You need to go and you need to hunt the serpent first so I can make you the serpent wine, the finest serpent wine, and then you can hold it while I go do things.
I think that we're gonna ride this train a little bit. I think 15's like a good like at least the first half of the game when they actually finished it is a kind of an interesting evolution of 12's design ethos in some ways. You know, you have real time combat, you have hunts, you have a semi open world,
Mm.
but I think 12 just in general, 12 manages to tell a cohesive story, have very intricate, in-depth lore, provide all the bells and whistles you'd expect from a great RPG, all that optional content for you to find. Um, it does all this and seems so ahead of its time from more than a decade ago. And I feel like now that Zodiac Age has come out and receiving a very positive reception, I'm really hoping that Square will look at that and maybe like for 16 decide to go in a similar direction. Like I want to return to medieval fantasy. I really do.
I do too.
Yeah, I'm okay with like modern day anime pretty boys as much as the next guy. God, I miss medieval politicking in my Final Fantasy, and that's what I'd like to see more of. It's whether or not 12 would actually make it into a top five for me of Final Fantasy games varies by day. It kind of hovers around that mark, but I think that just is more of a stance on which Final Fantasies had more of a personal impact on me than any real indicator of the game's quality. I love 12. It's a great game.
I love 12 too, and this is no surprise.
Mm.
It's still probably my favorite. Well, okay. 14 has done a lot to make me really love it. If I really had to do like a top five, I might be hard pressed as to whether I would put 12 or 14 on top. But either way, 12 on top and 14 number two, or the other way around, it would work just fine. So, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, come on. It's no surprise that I love 12. I don't even really need to say anything else about it beyond what I said about Zodiac Age, which I think a remake of this, or remaster of this game is exactly what it needed to reintroduce it to fans that didn't gel with, didn't click with in the original version, or to reintroduce it to fans who never played the original version. And I'm super happy to see it being well received because, warts and all, this is how I've always felt about Final Fantasy XII. It's got problems, it's not perfect, but it's still one of those sort of experiences that I can't forget, and that even though I like other Final Fantasies, Final Fantasy 15 is an exception. It's still, when I think about what's my favorite Final Fantasy, I still can't kind of move on from it. And Zodiac Age, obviously, on its own, is an amazing version of the game and an amazing game. So, I mean, I think if you've been listening and playing along with us, regardless of whether you're playing the original version or the Zodiac Age, I mean, Zodiac Age makes improvements, but I think the original still is a good game, and I hope that you have enjoyed your time with it. At very least, enjoy it. It doesn't have to be your favorite Final Fantasy because we all have different, points of view. But hopefully, it's been an interesting journey, and I guess we're moving to the end of the show now. I kind of ended the show without thinking about it.
Womp womp.
So, yes, that's it. That is the end of the episode. We are finished with Final Fantasy XII. Like I said, if you've been playing along with it, I hope you have enjoyed listening to us chat and at times rant about the game. It's a fun game to play, even though it still does have its issues, even with the Zodiac Age version. So, for myself and for Peter and for Robert, I want to thank everyone for listening, and thank you guys for joining us, of course.
Thank you in a big way.
Yeah, always,
Jinx.
Always a good time.
So, as usual, some housekeeping things at the end here. Next week, we have a special episode on Quintet, the developer of such awesome games as Terranigma, Illusion of Gaia, ActRaiser. Robert, are you on that episode?
I am the guest host of that episode with Mike Solosi and the wonderful Hilary Andreff. So definitely check that one out, and you can hear all about Planet Laika.
It sounds like, Planet Laika? It's not Planet Lycan? I'm sorry.
And no, Laika the space, Laika the space dog, the Russian space dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
There we go.
Moving on. The October game is going to be, we mentioned this before, but a reminder, Shin Megami Tensei Digital Devil Saga. Get your devils out, guys.
Yeah, Fen and I are both going to be on that one.
Heck yeah. Argylos got both devils out.
Devils out for Shin Megami Tensei?
Yeah, well, it doesn't work, but I'll take it. I started it.
All right, it sounds like it's going to be great. I hope you guys enjoy.
I'm excited. I've been meaning to play these games for ages.
They're so cool. They're super cool.
You're going to have to do the second one, though, at some point then, too, because you can't do the first one and then just leave it like that, right?
Yeah, you really can't. Not with that ending.
Maybe that can be a bonus round or something, or we'll see.
Yeah. In other news, we want to thank everyone who participated in the episode 100 poll. We had a lot of activity, and it was very interesting for a while there. It seemed like Tactics Ogre was going to win, and then Breath of Fire 4 came out from behind and just ran away with it. So Breath of Fire 4 will be the next game, it'll be the poll-winning game. You can look forward to episodes on that at the end of the year. I believe that should be coming out in December. Obviously, we love playing these games and we love chatting about them, and maybe some of you have been playing along with us as we've been moving through the games. So, of course, if you have any comments, reactions from your playthroughs, or if you have any just general ideas, suggestions that you want to shoot our way, feel free to email us at retro@rpgfan.com. You can also chat with us on the RPG Fan forums. We have a thread for Retro, but you can also just chat with us everywhere. We like to talk. Do be sure, if you haven't already, to review, rate, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts from. We love feedback in all forms. You don't have to say we love you or anything, but we will accept adulations like that.
So you can tell us that you love us.
You have to.
Yes.
No, you have to.
It is allowed. It is known, as they would say.
It is known.
It's a mandate.
We only accept positive feedback. No, we're not the whole alternative feedback here. Whatever you want to tell us, we will listen to. Whether it's we love you or I like this, but I think you could maybe change that. Or how about you play this game? By all means, if you've got games you want us to play, let us know and we will put it on polls for future episodes. So finally, does everyone want to mention where people can find you on social media? If you're so inclined.
Peter?
Yeah, you can find me at I Have Fury on Twitter. It's the same as my forum handle. You can email me, peterT@rpgfan.com, for news, inquiries, or just about anything. Let us know how we're doing.
You can find me on Twitter at Misanthrobob and on the forums as Towns Carmarty. Yeah, that's what you can do. I thought I'd give my email address because Peter did his, but I mean mine's the same as his, but Robert F. You can find it, but you don't have to email me, but you can if you want to.
I feel like should they email you? I'm a little confused.
I don't know. It's Schrodinger's email. You don't know if it's there until I open the inbox.
It's alive and not alive until you check it.
Well, then you better Better check it. We want it to be alive.
Yeah.
For me, you can find me both on the boards and on Twitter at Leon_Kazerl. And I could spell it out because I know I pronounce things weird, but I don't want to do that. So just, yeah. And you can also email me at CaitlynA@RPGFan.com. That would be interesting. I don't think I've gotten very many emails that are directed specifically to me, so it could be fun. By all means, come email me about your shipping, your Final Fantasy XII shipping, or don't. Maybe.
Depends how much detail they want to go into.
Just please don't send me your fanfics. Just I don't want to see your Pinello X Fran epic tome that you wrote in middle school.
Rule 34 is all right though.
I will accept memes.
Memes and gifs of memes.
The dankest of memes.
I think that's a good place to wrap things up. So for myself and for Peter and Robert, thank you for listening. Hope you had a good time. And check back often. We will have more awesome retro episodes soon.
Don't listen to Outdoors Flies.
I'm Captain Bosch.
Bosch live!
The reins of history back in the hands of man.